Module 4, Lesson 3. How can we get kids hooked and engaged? We need to pull and draw them in. We need to get them to click or log on mentally. So let's talk about the concept of educational clickbait. Start with your essential questions. The ASCD has put together a great guide, linked here and in the resources, starting with what essential questions are, and equally important, what they are not. Essential questions are open-ended and thought-provoking. Jenny Maggiera in Courageous Adventures may call them quest runs versus quest dones. We'll talk more about that in Lesson 4. Essential questions focus on transferable ideas the students need after or outside of your class. And this requires some standards unpacking and work to identify what those ideas are. Focus your questions on those rather than specific units or standards themselves. Essential questions lead to more questions and require evidence and justification. They do not lead or guide students toward a set answer. As seen in the ASCD chart, they're also not the same as hooks. Hooks are really important and grab your students' attention, but because they may focus on the most interesting part of the concept or unit to draw those students in, they may be too specific, small, or even closed, as opposed to an essential question that guides investigation and learning. And remember, when constructing essential questions, intent is more important than form. Don't get too distracted by wording. Just because a question begins with what doesn't mean it's lower level or it can't be used as an essential question. For comparison, what key event sparked World War I versus is there ever a just war? The second question would span units, be revisited multiple times, spark other questions, and require justification. Let's take a look at some examples. Take a minute to read over these questions. Pay attention to how thought-provoking and transferable these questions are. They would certainly spark other questions and discussions that would require justification with evidence. Let's turn our attention now to those hooks. Many of our favorite icebreaker activities can be tweaked to become content-specific hooks to get the students engaged with your learning objectives. Take Would You Rather, for instance. Try to focus those on your topic. For instance, if you're introducing the Revolutionary War, ask, would you rather be on a highly skilled or highly passionate team? Would you rather protect yourself or be protected? This will spark a great discussion in your class without students realizing that you're talking about the British Army versus the colonist army. But this can be revisited throughout the unit for students to reflect on their answers and now use evidence from their learning to justify. Another great tool is Google Earth View extension that can be found in the Chrome Web Store. Once installed, this extension turns every new tab you open into a Google Earth satellite image. These images are incredibly thought-provoking, but down here in the right corner, you can actually visit the Google Earth link associated with this image. Once here, you can start seeing how different contents could be connected to this image. For instance, we could ask geographical questions, of course, but how about settlement and movement patterns, human-environment interaction, environmental impact, even arrays, perimeter, area, distance, city planning, or government systems? The more you move this image around, the more ideas get sparked. Another great way to get students hooked into your content is to present them with a puzzle. The site linked here takes any message you type, maybe an essential question or a supporting question, and turns it into a rebus puzzle. The students will be highly engaged to solve the puzzle, but once they do, that discussion will spark in your classroom. Another great website linked here is 101questions.com. This site generates an image or video and allows students to record questions there, but you could have them record questions on any platform you prefer. But there's also a search feature on this site that would let you hone in on something specifically related to your content. Or try a zoomed in image, which is easily Google searchable, and have students figure out what it is, make guesses, and then have that discussion about how it relates to your content. Similarly, you could use a vocabulary list before you introduce a unit, have them analyze those words and predict what they could be learning about. Or have them draw. Pear Deck is a great tool for that, or make a mind map. All of these strategies help activate prior knowledge, predict what's going to be learned, and build that schema. Work in those wonders and those thinking routines you already use in your classroom to spark their curiosity and stimulate their thinking. Templates for how to work these into your daily classroom are linked here. Finally, let's lean into the social media concept. There are great platforms for you to capitalize on the social aspect of learning. Flipgrid for reflections and discussions, Pear Deck to make your presentations more interactive, Padlet, and even your LMS to gather student thoughts and discussions. And then there are great templates out there now that mimic actual social media posts. Really, all they are Google Slides that have been formatted to look like social media posts. And then there are also some specific websites that allow students to make imitation social media posts from scratch. They're great for perspective taking on roles, whether it's a historical figure or characters or that of a scientist or mathematician. One of the greatest that's out there right now is this Netflix template. With this template, students can take a unit or concept and pretend it's a show. They title it, give it the summary description here, and then break or chunk and sequence the different parts of that concept or unit with episodes, each with their own description. They can make trailers or even make recommendations like Netflix does. Think about the possible learning connections students could make if they're trying to recommend other things like this concept. So much thinking happens here compared to a multiple choice assessment. Think about it. In all these ways, we can have students click in to class and honor the social aspect of tech and media use.